And welcome to another episode of Hazardous Verbal Waste. I am your host, Shira Chan. Today is May 5th, 2019. This is Season 2, Episode 5 of Hazardous Verbal Waste. Got a lot of really cool stuff to go over this week, so let's get right down to it, shall we? In Yu-Gi-Oh! News, Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans spot one clever Pokemon Easter egg. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is one of the biggest manga and anime franchises offered today, and it has only gotten much bigger over its 20-year-long tenure. The real-life card game inspired by the series is just as huge, and has expanded to thousands of different types of cards over its long run too. This has resulted into a few cards being a little playful and referencing outside pop culture, and fans have spotted a clever Pokemon Easter egg hidden in one of the newer cards. The Promorphable line of monster cards were introduced in Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V, and they make their mark by being a cute line of magician-inspired monsters. But one monster in particular looks a lot like the starter Pokemon Charmander. As highlighted by Toku Nation on Reddit, the monster card Promorphable Lizardraw shares a striking resemblance to Charmander. The resemblance is most noticeable in the monster's head, which does match Charmander's design. Fans have made all sorts of jokes pertaining to this by referencing the "can I copy your homework" meme, and that Charmander is trying to work its way into Yu-Gi-Oh! Without being noticed. But the biggest Easter egg comes with the name as Lizardraw, is awfully close to Charizard's original Japanese name, Lizardron. Now this isn't an official confirmation that the design was inspired by the Pokemon favorite, but it's definitely a good argument for it. That's just one too many coincidences. Also in Yu-Gi-Oh! News, Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans can't stop seeing the Blue Eyes White Dragon in Game of Thrones. One of the most iconic monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is Seto Kaiba's Blue Eyes White Dragon. It's such an iconic figure of the popular manga, anime, and card game that fans can't help but recognize it when other white dragons fill the screens. One of the most prominent recent examples is of Game of Thrones' Viseron, which has been conquered by the Night King and is now a blue dragon that spits out a blazing fire. Much like how the Blue Eyes White Dragon's White Lightning attack can clear out monsters with a single breath, Game of Thrones' Viseron has shown off its power in the latest episode of the series. Let's hope that the Night King doesn't have two more of these to fuse together into an ultimate dragon of his own. That's pretty much all I have for Yu-Gi-Oh! News this week. On to the next segment. In Magic the Gathering news, get a look at Magic the Gathering's War of the Spark Mythic Edition. Magic the Gathering's War of the Spark Mythic Edition is the game's third Mythic Edition and its 81st expansion pack in 25 years. The War of the Spark Mythic Edition is available now, exclusively at eBay's Hasbro shop. Let's take a peek at the enchanted box that awaits you. Here's what we know about the forthcoming game from Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, which heralds the end of a massive story arc in the world of Magic the Gathering. Following the events of Ravnica Allegiance, War of the Spark revolves around the epic final battle as Nicol Bolas tries to ascend to godhood, with only the Gatewatch and their allies standing between him and a dark fate for the multiverse. The Mythic Edition gives fans an elevated draft experience and features 8 exclusive Planeswalkers with special card designs and full-blood artwork in a collectible box set. Everything about this is already looking mythic if you haven't had a chance to see what's in store. The edition will come in a striking box fit to cradle your shiny new cards. The limited set will be available for $249 on May 1st, so it's already available now. And as a part of eBay's global shipping program, the set will receive a special 50% discount on shipping internationally. This is all a pretty penny to be sure, but for Magic fans, War of the Spark has been many years in the making. That's pretty much all we have for Magic News this week. On to the next segment. In Pokemon news, Pokemon Go adds surprise legendary Pokemon into the wild. Pokemon Go has seemingly added several new legendary Pokemon to the game. Earlier last week, a Pokemon Go player reported finding and catching the legendary Pokemon Azelf in the wild in Arlington, Virginia. Azelf is 1/3 of the Lake Guardian trio, a group of legendary Pokemon that first appeared in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. While the player's claims were quickly dismissed by Reddit, Pokemon Go confirmed via Twitter that Azelf and its counterparts, Uxie and Mesprit, were appearing in the wild. Shortly after the tweet, players also found an Uxie in the wild somewhere in Asia. This is a big deal for Pokemon Go, as it's the first time that the game has added legendary Pokemon into the game as a catchable Pokemon in the wild. Previously, legendary Pokemon could only be caught either after beating them in a raid battle or by making a research breakthrough by completing field research on 7 different days. As of right now, we don't have any other additional details about how or why these Pokemon spawn. We don't know if they're regional Pokemon or if they only appear under certain weather conditions. Stay tuned and we will let you know more. That's pretty much all we have for Pokemon news this week. On to the next segment. In gaming news, apparently it's not console gaming that's dying off, it's PC gaming. Cast your mind back to the end of last generation, and it was all doom and gloom. Consoles were dead, no one was going to buy them. PC gaming was the place to be. Well, according to a new report from John Petty Research, the opposite is true. They predict that up to 20 million PC gamers will be defecting to TV gaming platforms, which includes consoles along with cloud gaming platforms, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire, within the next 4 years. The PC market continues to decline because the innovation that took place in the past providing speed-ups and clever new things has all but stopped. Plus, the product introduction times are stretching out to 4 years, said President John Petty. We are observing a higher percentage of low, mid-range PC products sold because of the consumer's intent to use with games, added senior analyst Ted Pollack. This, unfortunately, does not generate more volume, but does guide research and design as well as marketing investments for hardware providers and foreshadows the ultimate use model of the PC, a desktop ergonomic gaming computing environment that embraces user choice and customization. Gaming services used with TV displays, whether local or cloud-based, will absorb PC defectors and likely flourish with new entrants. The report seems to forget that you can connect a PC to most TVs these days. Both have HDMI, so there's nothing stopping you from running a gaming machine on a 52-inch 4K monster of a television. However, interest in the new consoles may sway a few PC owners if the specs are impressive and the cost is right. Google recently revealed their cloud gaming plans, but as the most successful game streaming service on the planet, PlayStation Now only has 700,000 subscribers. It seems that consumers are not very interested in streaming video games just yet, but that may change. I personally see a fusion of the two happening, with PC gamers streaming Xbox games to their PC onto the big screens. If you guys have any comments or thoughts on the matter, feel free to contact the show and let me know. And I'll be sure to include the many ways that you can contact Hazardous Verbal Waste at the end of the episode. That's pretty much all we have for gaming news this week. On to the next segment. Before we get to our next segment, a quick word from our sponsors. You know, when I'm hungry and I want something to eat, but there's nothing prepared in the house, it sucks. But with Blue Apron, I don't have to worry about having to go to the grocery store, portioning out the ingredients. Everything is done for me. You simply choose your meals. Their chef design recipes include balanced Mediterranean meals, quick one-pan dinners, and top-rated customer favorites. They guarantee the freshness of all their ingredients and deliver them in an insulated box right to your door. Following the step-by-step instructions, you'll experience the magic of cooking recipes that their chefs create with your family's tastes in mind. I know it's super easy for me to do. I can't cook worth a darn, but with their instructions and all the ingredients perfectly portioned out, I'm a chef. So if you want to try out Blue Apron for yourself, go to blue-apron.evyy.net/HVW podcast and you can save $60 over your first 3 boxes. Sign up now at blue-apron.evyy.net/HVW podcast. Again, that's blue-apron.evyy.net/HVW podcast and start cooking. In VR news, man spent 24 hours inside Minecraft virtual reality game. While virtual reality games are still far from wide acceptance, those who regularly play them need to follow a simple rule: take breaks. Despite the fact that virtual reality can provide the most exciting interactive features, it is physically difficult for many players to be in it for a long time. So, one fearless YouTube user under the nickname Apollo decided to do his own experiment. According to Kotaku, a YouTuber stayed in virtual reality for 24 hours, all the while playing Minecraft. He described his experience through video on Disrupt, in which he told what happened to his mind and body during and after a one-day virtual reality session. Throughout the game, Apollo stuck to the basic rule: the headset always remains on. He took breaks for food and sleep, but he did not take off his helmet with headphones, preferring to imitate his actions in the real world like a game. For example, if Apollo wanted to take a nap for several hours, he made his hero stay in bed at that time. While YouTuber spent the day on continuously playing the game, in Minecraft this was 72 days. For the whole game, Apollo took 3 sleep breaks and, as noted, he had no particular problems waking up in virtual reality. During his long gaming session, he managed to reach the traditional Minecraft final and kill the boss known as the Ender Dragon. After the experiment, he noted that the next few days were so slow. That's pretty interesting news and a really weird experiment to undertake. I expect we'll be seeing a lot more of this in the near future as virtual reality begins to take off. That's pretty much all we have for VR news this week. On to the next segment. In Nintendo news, Nintendo removes game from Switch eShop after developer reveals secret code editor. Last Friday, game developer Amir Rajan posted online about a secret he'd left in the Switch version of the text-based role-playing game A Dark Room. The game contained a code editor that could create no-frills apps. Later that same day, Nintendo removed the game from the Switch eShop. Rajan, who ported the 2013 game to mobile and then to Switch, revealed the secret 2 weeks after A Dark Room Switch release on April 26th. All you had to do to access it, he said in a thread on Mastodon, was connect a USB keyboard to the Switch, open the game, and press the tilde key. Players would then gain access to an interpreter and code editor rooted in the Ruby programming language. This, Rajan said, effectively turns every consumer-spec Nintendo Switch into a Ruby machine. He also requested that people please boost this information. Rajan said his goal in including this code editor was to help young players learn the joy of coding. "I got into coding because I wanted to create games," he wrote in the thread. "Doing that back in the 90s was difficult. No internet, expensive computers, and fragmented compilers. This is not the case today. But because of SBAG companies, we end up with game dev solutions that are just as obtuse. We've replaced no internet, low-level, complicated C with 2 gig clicky, draggy, droppy IDEs that phone home and mine data. A Dark Room's Easter egg is an attempt to capture the magic of coding in its purest form. Apparently, Nintendo was not pleased by Rajan's covert magic smuggling operation, because a Dark Room disappeared from the Switch eShop shortly after Rajan posted his mini manifesto. The game's publisher, Circle Entertainment, issued a statement about the situation to Eurogamer. A Dark Room was removed from the eShop on 26th of April, and we learned of the likely reason for its removal through the weekend, Circle wrote. We're liaising with Nintendo to clarify on the next steps, and will deal with the matter accordingly. They are regretful circumstances, and we apologize for the issue. We have always worked hard to carefully follow Nintendo's processes and terms throughout our history of publishing on DSiWare, 3DS eShop, Wii U eShop, and Nintendo Switch eShop, and we're sorry that there has evidently been an issue with this title. Kotaku reached out to Rajan, Circle, and Nintendo for more information, but has yet to receive a response. Rajan has said that he regrets how this all shook out. He told Eurogamer that he had purposefully hobbled the code editor to the point that all it can do is draw lines, squares, and labels, play sounds from the game, and detect button presses. You can't even render an image with the darn thing, he said. But he also noted that, yes, if your app is composed completely of labels, squares, and lines, like a Dark Room, then it lets you build an app without having to perform any hacks. Nintendo, in all likelihood, did not love that part. Rajan went on to partially blame himself for sensationalizing the power of the secret feature in his initial thread, but he also believes that the narrative that has played out online contributed to misunderstandings about what the mode actually did. Everyone is an armchair expert. Everyone thought the worst. You've seen that I've been called a dick, idiot, and everything in between. He believes the game and the code editor would have been allowed to stay in the eShop if it had been presented and understood to be a sandbox that lets you mod the game and provide a medium for kids to code. Rajan said he further regrets that these insults and misunderstandings have also splashed onto the game's publisher, describing the last 3 days as the worst days of my life. I acted alone and stupidly, he said. It was a last-second spark of inspiration, and I snuck it in assuming that plugging in a USB keyboard and pressing the tilde key wasn't part of the test plan. I deeply regret how this has blown up. That is interesting news from Nintendo, and honestly, I would like to see the game as it was prior to being removed from the eShop, reinstated to the eShop, with the understanding that the code editor and compiler that the initial developer left in the game is a part of the game. That's pretty much all we have for Nintendo news this week. On to the next segment. In tech news, the once hot robotics startup Anki is shutting down after raising more than $200 million. Anki, the robotics company that has raised over $200 million in venture capital, is laying off its entire staff, and the startup is shuttering. In a teary all-hands meeting on Monday morning, CEO Boris Softman told his staff they would be terminated on Wednesday, and that close to 200 employees would be paid a week of severance, according to people familiar with the matter. Softman had told employees a few days earlier that the company was scrambling to find more money after a new round of financing fell through at the last minute, imperiling the company's future. The startup is frequently called cute for the little robots it produces, like Cosmo, but it has raised serious money from investors like Index Ventures and Andreessen Horowitz, whose co-founder, Mark Andreessen, at one point sat on the company's board. Anki said last fall that it approached $100 million in revenue in 2017 and expected to exceed that figure in 2018. So this isn't some small lemonade stand closing down. Leadership had previously told employees that it was fielding acquisition interest from companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Comcast. The company said in a statement to Recode that it was left without significant funding to support a hardware and software business and bridge to our long-term product roadmap. Despite our past successes, we pursued every financial avenue to fund our future product development and expand on our platforms, a company spokesperson said. A significant financial deal at a late stage fell through with our strategic investor, and we were not able to reach an agreement. We're doing our best to take care of every single employee and their families, and our management team continues to explore all options available. Anki, founded by roboticists from Carnegie Mellon University, was a big deal in the robotics world at one point. Its first product, Anki Drive, was prominently featured on stage in a demo at an Apple event in 2013, but its buzz has cooled considerably in recent years as some investors grew skittish about hardware plays and others struggled to wrap their heads around what could reductively be considered just a toy business. It's a tough time for the consumer robotics sector, with other companies like Jibo having had to shut down recently. Despite being a popular choice at places like Toys R Us for its AI race cars, the company in recent years has tried to pivot from toys to becoming a more developed robotics company based on artificial intelligence. It's unclear what will happen to the company's assets going forward. For us, it was never meant to be a toy company or even an entertainment company. It's a robotics and AI company, Softman said on an episode of Recode Decode in 2017. Also in tech news, Google confirms it will automatically delete your data. What you need to know. Ahead of the annual Google I/O Developer Festival opening its doors on Tuesday, Google has already made one major announcement. It will soon start deleting your data automatically. Writing in the official Google Safety and Security blog, David Monsees and Marlo McGriff, the product managers for Google Search and Maps respectively, say that the company is responding to user feedback asking to make managing data privacy and security simpler. You can already use your Google account to access simple on-off controls for location history and web and app activity, they say, and if you choose to delete all or part of that data manually. What's new is the soon-to-be rolled out auto-delete controls that will enable users to set time limits on how long Google can save your data. Said to be arriving within weeks, the new controls will apply to location history as well as web and app activity data to start with. Users will be able to choose a time limit of between 3 and 18 months, after which the data concerned will automatically delete on a rolling basis. You can already delete this data manually if you want, but the ability to have it deleted automatically is long overdue, especially given reports last year that suggested Google was storing location data even when users had turned off location history and considering the somewhat arduous manual deletion process. Not that everyone will want to delete this data, of course. As with most things online these days, it comes down to a choice between privacy and function. Actually, make that a balance between the two, as it's rare for anyone to be totally binary when it comes to such matters, truth be told. Google says that this data can make Google products more useful to you, like recommending a restaurant that you might enjoy, or helping you pick up where you left off on a previous search. If you are of the don't share any of my location data, thank you very much persuasion, then disabling location history altogether would seem like a better option, given that some mobile apps can track location data when they aren't running. For everyone else, the new auto-deletion controls will be a welcome weapon in the taking back control of at least some of your data arsenal. Keep checking the data and personalization section of your Google account settings, specifically the Manage Your Activity Controls option, to see if the function has rolled out for you in the coming weeks. That's pretty much all we have for tech news this week. On to the next segment. In movie news, the new Sonic the Hedgehog trailer includes our first look at Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik. Mario has a movie. Lara Croft has 2 different actresses playing her in 3 different movies. Pikachu has many movies, including the Detective Pikachu, the greatest film of all time. But somehow, it took until 2019 for Sonic the Hedgehog to get his own movie. There's so much story to be told, like how he can run fast, and his enemy goes by both Robotnik and Eggman. Directed by Jeff Fowler, Sonic the Hedgehog follows eponymous mammal voiced by Parks and Recreation's Ben Schwartz, as he becomes friends with James Marsden and tries to save planet Earth from that no-good Robotnik, while inspiring lots of DeviantArt along the way. Also, there's a Coolio song. Here's the official plot summary. Sonic the Hedgehog is a live-action adventure comedy based on the global blockbuster video game franchise from Sega that centers on the infamously brash, bright blue hedgehog. The film follows the misadventures of Sonic as he navigates the complexities of life on Earth with his newfound human best friend Tom Wachowski, played by James Marsden. Sonic and Tom join forces to try and stop the villainous Dr. Robotnik, played by Jim Carrey, from capturing Sonic and using his immense powers for world domination. Sonic the Hedgehog, which also stars Tika Sumpter, Natasha Rothwell, Neil McDonough, and Adam Pally, opens on November 8th. I personally am very excited to see this movie, and I will be more than happy to put the trailer in the show notes. That's pretty much all I have for movie news this week. On to the other show promos. And here we come to the other show's promo section of the show. Unfortunately, I only have one promo for you this week. Again, I'd like to reiterate that if any of you would like to contact the show Hazardous Verbal Waste and provide us with your promo for your show, you're more than welcome to do so, and I will be providing that contact information at the end of the episode. Without further ado, here are the other show promos.
Looking into the darkness, you can feel your heart racing. The heaviness of sorrow and dread take control, and the voice inside you says, "Don't go in there." Now join your hosts Ashley Ernie and Bill Reed as we venture down the weird and mysterious.
Find the Don't Go In There podcast on your favorite podcast listening app. And remember, don't go in there.
Well, here we are at last at the end of yet another episode of Hazardous Verbal Waste. I hope you've been enjoying the show, and I hope you continue to enjoy the show. I did have a great interview lined up, but unfortunately due to technical difficulties, the audio for that interview was lost. I am hoping to get the interview rescheduled and re-recorded, and hopefully we'll get it to you, if not next week, possibly the week after. If you would like to contact the show and submit any comments, concerns, or ideas, you can do so in several ways. You can email us hazardousverbal@gmail.com. You can go to hazardousverbal.com and use the Contact Us page. You can also send us a voice message, which I will play in a future episode through Skype. The Skype ID is Ichimoto1. You can also get a hold of us through our various social media accounts, which are in the show notes from, I believe, 2 episodes ago. Well, that's pretty much all we have for this week. This is Shiro-chan signing off. Peace.